Welcome to the Daily Exchange. We're here with Alex from NUGGET'S News, and we're going to talk about how much blood there is on the street. Alex, it's absolutely flaming out there. I'm seeing red candles everywhere. Guys, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back. I've got Alex with us from NUGGET'S News. Alex is dialing in right here. Say hello to everyone, Alex. Tell us what's happening. What's happening down there?
Yeah, well, the candles are all pretty red this morning, aren't they? But we've kind of got a bit numb to it over the past 6 months.
Gone a bit numb to it. I love to it. All right, let's just talk about give it a high level. We've dropped about 10%, would you say? 10%? It's pretty heavy out there. The streets are on fire. Cars are lighting up. People are setting fire to things. They're selling everything they have possibly got. What are we looking at? I'll just give a quick levels. Do you want to talk about some quick levels right now, just in terms of numbers?
Yeah, well, I mean, for those people that don't really follow our work much, we look at fundamentals and technicals and sentiment. And at the moment, it's all a little bit of a tantrum, technical related, I think. There's just been some key levels that we've lost on the charts, and there's not a lot of resistance to the next sort of levels down that we look like we're heading to.
All right, I'm going to bring up, just have a little high level here for everyone to give. Just going to bring this, Joel, if I can, in my screen here, the crypto watch. Can I bring that over here?
Yes, you can.
Is that okay? Or do I need to go on my screen here? I'm not exactly sure. I'm just going to talk about some levels right now. Bitcoin's trading at 6,322. We're down 3.5%. Ethereum at 475, down 4.23%. We're just going to have to move you over a little bit.
That's all right, mate.
Alex, sorry about that. You can just pop in. Leave your little Bitcoin emoji thing in there as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
EOS at $9.93, down 1.24%. Bitcoin Cash down 4% as well. Ethereum Classic at $13.73, down 6.53%. Ethereum Classic has just literally confused me all day as well. Can we talk a little bit about that, Alex? What exactly is Ethereum Classic, and what exactly is it supposed to be doing?
I can certainly demystify that for you, Fred.
Tell us the story.
So back in the day, people forget that this is all very early stage, this entire space.
Yeah.
But when Ethereum was very early on in 2016, the first ever sort of ICO of sorts sold out very quickly. Mm-hmm. Just like ICOs are pretty hot these days. So the second ICO was one called the DAO, and they raised $150 million. And it turned out to be not very secure. It was a smart contract, and someone found out a way to drain a lot of Ethereum out of it. So they stole millions and millions of dollars, and the Ethereum team said, look, this is early stage. We didn't realize about this bug. Do we want to roll back that mistake and do a hard fork? Most people are familiar with what a hard fork is these days with Bitcoin and whatnot. So the team said, yeah, look, we're going to change that and undo the hack, basically. There's a group of people that said, no, blockchains should be immutable. You shouldn't ever be able to change them. And so they disagreed with it. And a lot of people thought this wasn't going to survive because you need people to mine the network, blah, blah, blah. And everyone thought Ethereum was just going to go on its new way. But then out of nowhere, a guy called Barry Silbert and the Poloniex exchange, which was one of the big ones at the time, I'm not sure. It gets a little bit murky here. And they went behind it, people's back, and they said, look, Ethereum Classic's the real Ethereum. They listed it on the exchange. They bought it all up when people thought it was going to go to zero. And next thing you know, they're promoting it as the real Ethereum and blah, blah, blah. And it's a little bit like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. The people that believe it's the real one are, pretty hardcore about it all. But then obviously yesterday they got announced that they're going to be listed on Coinbase, which is always good news if your coin gets on Coinbase. So the price is having a good run at the moment. But why anyone would use Ethereum Classic when all 250,000 developers are actually working on the real Ethereum, it's a little bit beyond me. But anyway, it's out there.
So Ethereum Classic can you put smart contracts on that, or is that like
for all intents and purposes, it's the same as Ethereum,
right?
But in the future, obviously, Ethereum's going to upgrade to proof of stake. And so then we don't know if Ethereum Classic are going to upgrade to that as well. Think of it as just a copycat. It's an Ethereum copycat. Yeah.
So right, it's like Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin blah, 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 Bitcoin Private,
Yeah, well,
all those
I mean,
kinds.
even those coins have a point of difference. So Bitcoin Gold, for example, says that we can be mined with GPU. Bitcoin Cash says we've got bigger blocks. Ethereum Classic is actually, basically the same, but they're just saying, hey, we've never changed our roll back that hack because they didn't believe that was the right thing to do. Whereas everyone in the community said, yeah, it's early stage. We found a vulnerability. Let's fix it.
Right. So so Ethereum Classic launching on Coinbase, very interesting. Still went up like 20% or so. Interesting that Coinbase still has that power.
Yes.
We're looking at, let's talk about this bear market.
Yeah.
Have you got any sort of fundamental analysis or technical analysis, Alex, on where we might end? Do you have some charts or things like that you want to talk through?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I'm working on a big episode about everything that is playing into this bear market. So look, we ran up too hard too fast at the end of last year. So 20,000 was definitely, a minor bubble, but I don't think it was the big bubble that everyone talks about, have we burst .com style? I definitely don't think that's the case. Less than 1% of people in the world even, are into crypto. So long way to go in my mind. But we're having a pullback. People are worried. People are worried about what the government are going to do. Are they going to rule all ICOs securities? We've seen it time and time again. China have banned Bitcoin 5 years. Every year I've been in the market. People just get fearful. And at the moment, there's just no good news that's going to change the sentiment because everyone's bearish. Everyone's seen their portfolios bleed. All the social pages, Twitter, Facebook, people just aren't as engaged and excited about it all as they used to be. So we need something to kind of change that sentiment, some really good news to turn things around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just been a slow bleed.
Where's your bottom, Alex? Tell us. Give us the bottom. Give us the Nuggets news bottom.
Very bottom. The worst it could possibly get, I would say 3,000, but I don't think it's going there. That would have to be terrible, terrible news, as if Donald Trump comes out and says crypto's banned in America, something like that. Unless something that bad happens, if we just trend on our way, I really think you're going to see the big boys, the big whales that sold at the top, start to step in around 5,000 and say this represents really good value after selling between 15 and 20,000. They can buy back at around 5 and have triple the amount of Bitcoin that they sold. That's the kind of level that the big smart money is going to come back in, I think.
You don't think that they've already bought in and potentially that's why we're lagging because we're lost these new buyers? They've been spinning them over in some ICOs and some of the money they've lost some, they've gained some. There's you got play money there, but now it's kind of locked up to some extent potentially and they're not able to sell?
The whales or the retail investors?
I'd say the whales potentially, some of the whales.
Yeah, I mean, we've just been watching this bottom out, and that's called accumulation phase, where they sit there and they let the sellers, the people that are panicking, sell into their orders, and they own more Bitcoin. 6,000 compared to where they sold up there in the high teens. They're getting good bang for buck. But the retail investors are probably important to talk about as well. Coinbase was adding 100,000 accounts a day towards the end of last year. All the Australian exchanges were, in overload mode. They couldn't get people, approved quick enough. So that's just completely changed that dynamic. We've been doing some polls about people that just don't have friends that are interested in crypto because who wants to buy something that goes down in price every day? So until all that turns around and we get back above 10,000 and everyone's positive again, then we'll see the next wave. Those 5 friends at your barbecue on a weekend that were asking you about crypto will start to think about buying rather than teasing you about how much money you've lost. Yeah, totally.
Well, I've got some stats here from April versus June 7. And in terms of the amount of volume that's been traded on exchanges, they're seeing Binance is basically halved in volume. This is from April 26 to June. Not January or November, Apral. Late April.
Yeah, I think I know the chart you're talking about. Yeah.
You know the one? Up it's down 90%. Bitfinex is down 71%. Bittrex is down 85%. Kraken 74% down. Hit BTC somehow only down 22%. No idea how that's happening. I'm worried about that exchange. You have any views on that exchange?
Yeah, so
Alex?
a few of those Chinese exchanges at one stage had zero fee transactions, so they can just trade back and forth and get some false volume. Now, a lot of governments are cracking down on that in terms of false volume and manipulation. So maybe that's a bit of a cause, but I think it's just the fact that we're just seeing this slow bleed of a few people selling each day, whereas we had that euphoria of people buying different coins and trading, and the markets have been pretty range bound on their way down. So there's not trading opportunities for those people compared to the bigger swings. A number of factors, but people are just in hodl mode, I think.
Deep, cold hodl mode. All right, that's really interesting. But the thing is, like, let's keep moving on here, because I think it's there's a tweet here by John McAfee. Well, I don't know how credible this could possibly be, but we'll see how we go. Overnight, he says, "Do not panic about the drop in Bitcoin's price. It is an overreaction to the news that Bitstamp, Coinbase, Itbit, and Kraken are being investigated for price manipulation. This will delay the bull market by no more than 30 days. Don't buy into the fear, buy the coins." What's your view? What's your view, Alex, on firstly on John McAfee's himself, and then let's talk about the tweet itself.
So there's lots of big influencers that I won't name names, but have got way too much pull. Tweets or videos they do and stuff that moves the market. And these people, some of them are just clowns, to be honest. And it just shows how immature this space is. Once we have some, big important figures and well-balanced figures and all that come into this space, it's going to be more credible than, some of these people that are doing and saying certain things. But there's a couple of points that I'd like to talk about from that tweet. So one is buy the coins. So we focus on fundamentals on our channel, the best quality projects. And the thing is that some of those are now down over 90% from their peak. And some of them have made huge progress. So why should a good coin, a good project that has real world partnerships and is making progress have fallen 90% just because the market has? So the point is these markets don't make sense. So use that to your advantage to buy the good coins. And Bitcoin, yeah, people are a little bit fearful. Not many things make me kind of angry or get my emotions stirring. But when you see all this corruption going on in Australia, for example, Banking Royal Commission, or fraud in the US banking system, and yet the SEC and that want to come out and investigate Bitcoin and the price being manipulated. I mean, don't they have 1,000 better things they could be doing? It really, really frustrates me, mate. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess price manipulation is a major factor which enabled the creation of loads of capital markets around the world. Once it was stabilized, that's what enabled it to grow. Like the stock exchange in New York City used to be fraught with pump and dumps in the beginning. It was basically, there were bucket shops that used to be at the front of it that literally allowed you to gamble all day. And there was a guy on the ticker reading out the ticker. And obviously, one small thing and one small manipulation there, and someone's lost money or someone's made money, right? I actually think that solving price manipulation as such is very challenging, particularly in this market, but it will be definitely, I think, rallied out of the market. I don't think you can have a long-term sustainable market that's stable with loads of price manipulation all the time, right? This whole thing is funded a lot by bots, right? So lots of bots are pretty much trading and making markets. I don't think there are that many people trading at those weirder levels, and you can't buy that fast. I just don't think you can. I don't think anyone's sitting there, that many people are sitting there with the buy button ready to go, right? So you're really talking about people getting together in groups and in clans and loading up bots, loading up exchanges, creating news, all sorts of things, and then leading up to a big one day hitting a coin and then releasing it, and then people, obviously buying into that, and or hitting through a large amount of shorts and or a large amount of longs and causing major movements in prices, right?
Yeah, I mean, some ICOs, well, nearly all of them now have market makers that they pay to stabilize or support the price of their coin. And some of them, you'll see a coin get listed on an exchange and it'll go up with those huge candles that you see. Some of the times they actually push the price up too high. They do their job too well. And then we see these huge run ups and huge crashes. And it's the people that the coins have paid to make their coin look good when it gets listed. So, I mean, stuff like that, whether or not it's healthy, as you said, once the markets grow, they become less and less influential. So it just shows how young this space is, I think, still. It needs to mature.
So let's talk about some of the things that might turn this market around, Alex. Like, there's got to be something, right? Like last time we were sitting around this levels, what, six? Did we touch 6,000? I think we got pretty close.
Yeah, touched. I think even pierced under 6,000 to the high fives, but there's a few things that can turn this market around on a dime. One is the stamp of approval of that Bitcoin ETF. And what we're hearing in the news is that there's been more submissions from Van Eck and other companies that run those ETFs. They're getting closer than ever with their proposals. Number of countries can, have that ETF. It doesn't have to necessarily be the US. But a lot of people don't know what's happening in this space. People don't understand blockchain technology. We're going to talk about EOS in a second. I'll touch on this as well, about how people don't even understand how to vote for their own coin. So people, as soon as people perceive that everything's better and the bottom's in, they're just going to follow, we call it the herd, the dumb money. And once everyone gets the all clear that the bottom's in, I think the stampede and everyone races back in, but everyone's just waiting for some sort of green flag. So it'll be some good news out of, the SEC that Ethereum's not a security, or, hey, we're not cracking down on ICOs that were launched before 2018. People just want some certainty about the future of the markets and how ICOs are going to be dealt with. But it could be something like India unbanning crypto, trading in exchanges and that sort of thing, as we're hearing about in the headlines. Look at everyone moving to Malta. It doesn't matter. My point is that this can only be pushed back. I see this space growing, whether it takes a year or 2 years, whether everyone moves to Malta or other jurisdictions that say, hey, we're going to be fully crypto friendly here. You can only slow this down. It's like saying the internet's not going to take off or Facebook's not going to take off. Cryptocurrencies are going to be part of our lives. It's just a matter of when that happens.
Okay, that's awesome. I think I wanted to add to that. I think, India obviously is definitely one. But I think for me, the big one, and the people who traditionally are pretty big buyers and financially savvy are China. When's China going to unban crypto? It's got to be getting pretty close, right? It's a great time for them to unban right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes into those bigger dynamics, macro views about when the US say something's really bad, do China and Russia come out and say, hey, we're going to adopt it? So China want to control. China don't want capital leaving their country. That's their main concern. So once they can control this, the on-ramps and off-ramps, the exchanges are well regulated, they've stamped out all the scams, and they say, look, ICOs have to be done within our rules and our framework. Once they can control it all, of course, they don't want to miss out on one of the biggest technical revolutions of our lifetime. So I think they're going to come back in force sooner or later.
100%. What about, let's talk about moving on to another topic now, which is near that. I think another part of it, which is very connected, is everyday adoption, right? What's sort of sitting between, what are your sort of top 3 places that you think adoption is going to start to happen?
As in what industries?
Yeah, so we've got, you'd say the nefarious trade of questionable products around the world is definitely one area that has this. I think you've got people who are trying to move money or store money from a country where they're unsure about the current local currency. I think that's definitely happening right now, and that's where you get closer to adoption. Obviously, people who get hacked and things like that, they learn about Bitcoin pretty quick that way. What else? These are all very edge casey, right? And Brisbane airports, allowed cryptocurrency payments and things like that. But where do you think there's going to be some real
So it's probably international commerce, travel, tourism. So obviously, if I go and buy a coffee, I can pay past my card in Australia. There's no real benefit for me using Bitcoin at the moment. in some financially, suppressed countries where there's huge inflation, Venezuela, Greece, you can't pull money out of an ATM, you can't send money to another country. Having your life savings in Bitcoin is far better than having it in a bank. So those countries, obviously, Bitcoin acting as the currency is going to be beneficial, whereas maybe that's not the case in a lot of Western countries yet. I think it'll change down the road. But our business, for example, we only accept cryptocurrency. We have customers from 50 different countries. It would have been impossible for us to accept those little, monthly charges and stuff using a bank. So international commerce is huge. Tourism, you touched on. Come to Australia, Brisbane Airport, every cafe and, hotel, transport. If you can pay for all of that with cryptocurrency, you remove the need for foreign exchange, travel cards, all those fees. So look, there's a number of use cases that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency have as currencies, but then we get to that whole other realm of blockchain-based businesses and ICOs and stuff like that that's not competing as money at all, and they're disrupting individual industries, which I think we're going to talk about a few of as well.
Yeah, very true. Just want to give a quick price update to everyone watching. Where are we at? Bitcoin at 6,314, Ethereum at $473, EOS at $9.90, Bitcoin Cash at $834, Litecoin at $93.55. It's a steal. Literally, you could steal Litecoin for that if you wanted to. This is not financial advice, by the way. Remember that. Ethereum Classic at $13.72. Cardano seems to be holding its price against Bitcoin right now. That's an interesting one to talk about. Ripple down to 52 cents. And any other standouts there? Monero at $125. Which is very interesting as well. Interesting price movements around that.
I think Binance has been a real good performer. I haven't checked it this morning, but that's one that's really held up pretty solidly in the bear market.
Yep.
And that's probably a good conversation about how those coins that give you value from exchanges and the fees and that have really held up well, because Binance is talking about doing even more innovative things going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Binance Coin was the moon coin of the day a couple of days ago because it has been extremely well placed. Well, I think I've lost my headphones there, but extremely well placed in terms of the price and the action that you get from it. What's some other standout coins right now for you, Alex?
I mean, if you followed our work, we've been pretty bullish on some Australian coins. So we think Power Ledger, Horizon State have had some good news again this week. Haven's doing good things with their stable coins. There's probably 20 or 30 Aussie projects that we're going to continue to cover on the channel. In terms of internationally, I love Funfair, and I know you wanted to talk about some of those gambling coins, and even prediction markets like Augur and Gnosis. I think that is just another great use case for blockchain ledgers.
Definitely.
Funfair is back to 2 cents. I think it got up above 10 or even 20 cents at one stage. So,
really, back up at 2 cents. That's interesting. Yeah. So let's talk about getting into sort of everyday use cases again, just going back to that. I think the big mystery right now is, we've got this Lightning Network. Have you used the Lightning Network, Alex?
Only once up in Brisbane Airport to buy a coffee, and you need a Lightning wallet. And the first time you use it, you need to open a channel with that business. So if you've got a coffee shop or a restaurant you're going to go to a lot, then it costs whatever a Bitcoin fees at the time, 40 cents, $1 to open a channel. But once you've opened it, it's there forever, and then other people can start to use your channel and route through that stuff.
Right. And how much? How'd you find it? Like, was it fast?
It's instant. Yeah.
Right. How long did it take you to set up the channel?
We were with the guys from, Travel by Bit and Living Room of Satoshi.
Yeah.
So we were with them, and they already had it done, to be honest. So it's a little bit technical, but what they're working on now are the wallets so that you don't have to be, the tech head, the programmer. It'll do it all for you on the back end, and that's when we'll see adoption really increase.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So tell us about, so gambling coins seem to be getting a real punch in the face over the last, I'd say, few months. And I guess, not to say that there aren't other coins getting, but I just find it so interesting that there's this idea that, with trust and with poker and those kind of things, can you trust that you're actually playing against a person? Can you trust that you're actually playing against a bot? And this whole idea of a gambling arena where you can trust exactly what's going on. Tell us
Yes.
about what's your views on gambling coins and their potential?
Yeah, I think it's a great use case because of that immutability, that provability. So the point with Funfair and a lot of these online casinos, gambling style coins, is that you can prove that the odds are what they are exactly meant to be. So if you sit there and play poker for a few hours, you can prove that there was the right amount of aces dealt or whatever it is. Whereas if you're playing a random online internet site, how do you know that they're not favoring the house and they've got to take a percentage fee to cover their business costs? Whereas once the software, the blockchain itself becomes the middleman, all of a sudden the house edge change to black and red becomes 50-50, and you can sit there and play all day with the best odds you can find anywhere in the world. So I think that's going to be very attractive for some people, knowing that they've got the best odds. It's provably fair. They're doing it with their cryptocurrency, so instant payouts when they win, all that sort of stuff. Very cool.
So Funfair's down to 2 cents, which is pretty spicy. They were trading at around, well, no, actually, I guess they launched at around 1.7, or at least back in July they were 1.7. They've got up as high, seems as around 16, 17 cents, so 19 cents, and now they're back down to around, your 2.4 cents.
So the reason I love that team is the guy that runs it, Alex Saunders, has got decades of experience running casinos and online gaming and gambling. And they've been working on what they call fate channels, determine your fate of gambling, which is a similar to a state channel or a lightning network. So very, very cool stuff. Like, they're at the cutting edge of tech development as well as online gambling.
And why is the coin not going, Alex? What's going on?
People just don't understand the fundamentals, mate. It is what it is. The market's down 90%, and a coin that is as good as that goes down 90% with it. As I was saying before, it makes no sense, and all it gives is people that understand it an opportunity to buy more.
Massive down. Weren't they supposed to be launching something like soon about their actual trading and their actual gaming?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on the website and muck around right now and use their tech. They haven't had a full rollout yet, but some of the little games are there. You can play it and see how it all works. I think in next quarter they're rolling out more for the public.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, it's something to watch. It'd be good to know when exactly they're going to actually be live, because just checking out their roadmap.
I was going to say, yeah, that'd be good if you can bring that up. And it's an example of people saying, this is years away from being our everyday lives. Well, no, I think something like Funfair is going to be huge before the end of the year. If you want to check on their roadmap, if that's when the public mainnet launch is.
Yeah, so they've got and protocol to Ethereum community. So it's on Ethereum. Their Q2 goals, live beta on mainnet. April 17th, they have a partnership with Spike Games. QA in May. Brand to Asia gaming market. Geez, they've actually got a lot of news going on. It's a lot actually going on.
Yeah.
So the closed beta live on mainnet. Wow.
Yeah. So it's closed for people that got accepted into it. And I've played around on that. So, yeah.
So the next step is to go live, I think. They must be getting very close. This is an exciting coin to look at, really. And that's the thing, I've got a bit of a view, and I'm interested in your view on this right now, is that there's been all this talk about infrastructure coins, protocols and things like that. And I just think potentially there might be a few too many. We've got enough infrastructure. That's like rolling out another 4G tower right now in the middle of Manhattan. You know, I think we're kind of good. It's possible, you know, and I suppose we might want another mobile phone network, but right now I think we've got a few. And my view right now is that potentially we might be going into a season of applications as opposed to infrastructure and protocols. Because I think there's this phase, right? You remember the internet, we had dial-ups, then we had the best little websites, and they were really cool. And then we went and had broadband, we needed better infrastructure. Then we had YouTube and Facebook, and then we had like mobile data come on, and then we had apps and all those kind of things. And now, obviously, we're at that place, and we're getting better and better with this mobile data and things like that, and what mobile phones can do. But at its core, right, I think, you know, maybe Ethereum was dial-up, and maybe what EOS and Zilliqa, which is purporting to do 1 million transactions a second. 1 million transactions, Alex. I don't know anything that does. I don't know that many things that does 1 million transactions a second. Like, does the stock market even do 1 million transactions a second?
Oh, maybe on their very busiest days, I would think maybe. But yeah, we hear Visa and that they're doing thousands of transactions per second. But yeah, once you get up into the millions, you got to say, well, what industries and what specific use cases require that amount of transactions?
Especially on the blockchain, when you could just use a database, right?
Yeah, you got to say, well, why does that need to be immutable, decentralized, blah, 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 for that specific industry? And that's kind of where the argument stands today about all these trade-offs: decentralization versus speed, security, throughput, and what industry and what project needs what blockchain.
Totally. So going back, so if we're going into the age of dApps, and let's go back, say 6 months, even 9 months of some of the ICOs back then, there were some great dApp ideas. Maybe it was just too early, right, for some of them to get off the ground, and they didn't get traction. Which ones do you think might have a reboot? You know, they might move to EOS, have some enterprise grade blockchain, and really have another good crack. Maybe Funfair's in there.
So Funfair, what they do and what a lot of projects do, can take their higher number of transactions and do it on the side channels, on those Lightning Network style channels that we just spoke about. So Funfair will use Ethereum, and then you only have the settlement layer on the main blockchain. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, everything's going to build on EOS, but I think we're going to talk about that today. You know, it's one thing to say we're going to do it. It's another thing to actually launch this and roll this out and have it functioning, tested at scale. And that, I'm not just talking about EOS, I'm talking about all these different million transactions per second. So people sometimes forget that Bitcoin and Ethereum have got a big head start, and there's a lot of people, thousands of devs working on how to scale those. So yeah, I just say don't write off Ethereum yet, but definitely exciting to see what these other blockchains can do. But yeah, we're still waiting on EOS to actually launch their mainnet and get it live.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that? Obviously we've got, I want to come back to, you talked about Argor, Rep, particularly, and prediction markets. Why don't we take a break for a second and come back and let's talk about Argor, let's talk about Rep, let's talk about EOS, because I think there's a bit of an update coming up. But we're just going to flip over to a little fun video, Alex. Do stay with us, guys. We're on the daily exchange right now. Prices are going fairly well. We're just going to show you guys a cool little video we made here at Finder about cryptocurrency. It's a bit of a song. It's going around town. Joel, can you cue us up a little song? We got one for you guys. Check this out.
Money, 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 I got it all. Dollar, dollar bills at my asshole fall. I wasn't always rich, no way. I earned my zeros the hard way. I used to be a regular middle class guy, living in a flat that my mum supplied. I was at uni getting a degree when I heard the word cryptocurrency. Asked my mum for a small loan and traded it all for crypto. My crypto coin grew big, big, big. Now I'm a crypto big wig. Cryptocurrency. It sent me straight to the top. Before crypto, I had to buy food from the shops. All of this happened yesterday, cause crypto prices move quickly. I get price updates sent to my phone. Beep. Ooh, watch my money grow. Beep. I'm a millionaire, yo. Beep. The market's taken a blow. I lost 800k. Oh no, when mum finds out. Beep. I'm a billionaire. Read it and weep. Beep. I just lost it all. It's back, phew, close call. My currency just went bust. I invested everything into ass pennies, and now I'm out on my ass with no pennies. It sounds made up, ass pennies, but ass pennies were real. Look it up. Now I'll go back to much disappointment. Now I'll go back to my rent-free apartment. Now I'll go back to my uni degree. Now I'll go back to being unlucky. Cryptocurrency. I used to be at the top. After crypto, I still have to go to the shops. Cryptocurrency. I used to be at the top.
Finder.com.au.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're here with Alex from Nuggets News. We're talking about all sorts of things right now. Let's talk about EOS update right now, Alex, because we had the block producer guys from EOS, which unfortunately they had a terrible time in their voting. Someone did spoof that they were them, and they lost about 0.6% of their votes. Right now, I believe the vote count is at 9.236%. We need to get to 15% if I'm not correct. The current leaders are EOS Canon, CH, EOS New York, EOS Canada. They seem to be getting a large portion of the votes. EOS Authority, EOS Cafe Block seem to be doing quite well. But I don't know where this EOS Canon just came from. EOS New York seems to be performing really well. What's your view on this vote right now, Alex? Is it working? Is it all over the place? What's going on? Do you know how to vote, by the way?
Yeah, so there's a couple of portals. So I know there's the Generos guys and EOS Sphere guys from Australia that I've been talking with every day. And I think everyone is a little bit disappointed that they really thought that this was going to be up and live and voted for within 24 hours. But it just shows you that how many people maybe are in this space that have their coins on an exchange, or they're purely speculating on price, or they don't understand how to vote. And it is a little bit complicated, a bit like when people say, how do you, upgrade your coins to the mainnet when they do a switch or something like that. So it's been a little bit disappointing, to be honest, that it's taken nearly a week and we're only 2/3 of the way there, and they only require 15% of votes. So I would have thought that guys that are, hold a lot of EOS that really are into this, early adopters would have all voted. But hopefully by the end of the week, they've got a mainnet up and running, because it is, I don't know what you think, but geez, for one of the biggest coins that's raised billions of dollars to say that they're going to have that mainnet up and live pretty much straight away, and here we are a week later and it's not, it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there's a due process, because obviously they weren't allowed to launch it themselves. They would need to go to another, obviously then they'd be classed some sort of security or things like that. So they were required to get someone else to launch it. Otherwise, they would put a whole lot of money behind it. I have seen Dan Larimer in the chats, so with the go, no go votes and things like that. So I definitely think it is moving. I actually think it's not easy to coordinate a global 21 block producer rollout for a massive new blockchain.
Yes.
Ethereum's been going back and forth about proof of stake for, I think, pretty much as long as I think it's at least the last 6 months, if not longer. I think Bitcoin has obviously got huge numbers of things that they're trying to do as well, and they're going backwards and forwards. It just takes time to gain consensus. These things get quite political. So I actually think they're doing a relatively good job. And also the reason why I think they slowed down a bit as well was because of security, which is, I'm fine with that as well. I do think the votes are coming in. We've got, it's 92.3 million votes. I know Bitfinex has got about 72 million tokens in their exchange, and I'm sure Binance would have a huge amount as well. So a lot of these are locked up in exchanges. You can't withdraw or deposit coins within those exchanges. So obviously they're being traded within there. I think at its core, one of the reasons for that, obviously lack of votes potentially, is because they're in exchanges. Those exchange wallets themselves need to vote whether they should vote or not. So I don't know if you know, on Bitfinex, last night I voted for Bitfinex to vote in the vote, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
So I think
it's a good point, and it shows that too many people keep their coins on an exchange still, doesn't it?
There's a lot of people keeping coins. Although, I've been thinking about that as well. If you remember when Binance got hacked, one of the things they did a week after, they paid all the coins back out, which to me kind of signals potentially there's a bit of insurance there.
Yeah, I mean, I lost a lot of money on Bitfinex. Well, I lost a lot of money on lots of exchanges back in the early years. But on Bitfinex, they had a massive hack in 2015 or 16, I forget now, and they gradually repaid everyone. But Bitcoin and Ethereum had a huge run in the meantime, and people got paid back in dollar terms, so they actually lost out a lot. I don't think it's a. There's actually an exchange coming to Australia that we're working with. I can't announce it yet, but they're going to be the first exchange that's fully insured. So,
okay, that would cost a lot of money, that insurance policy. And I wonder who's on the other side of that. That must be literally underwritten all around the world.
Good conversation to have, but they have to keep 95% of their coins, offline in those hardware wallets.
Alex, when do you think EOS is going to launch? When's your prediction?
I'd say by Sunday night. By the end of this weekend, you'd really hope that people have their heads around how to vote. Now that we're about 2/3 of the way there.
Okay, and then once
as you said, though, difficult to coordinate a dozen different languages and time zones.
Yeah. I've seen them, so halfway through the meeting, they have to stop and speak everything again in Chinese because half the token holders and half the people involved speak Chinese, which is, would again slow things down quite a bit. We've got a question coming in, Alex, from the audience watching. Tell us, Joel, launch me us the question coming up. Ben asks, what are our thoughts on lending tokens? Lending tokens. I love lending tokens. Love lending tokens. What's your view, Alex? You start us off.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the industries and group of coins that have been the worst performing has been anything to do with a banking license, financial services, lending licenses, because they're trying to deal with the traditional banking system or whatever. So I think it's a great use case, whether it's stable coins where you lock them up in a contract to create and positions, collateralized debt positions in terms of lending, or whether we have the actual platforms where we can take out loans. I think it's a great use case to get away from the banks and whatnot, but they're dealing with a lot of legal paperwork and red tape depending on what jurisdiction they're in. So I'm excited for when they come around, but it's a bit of a nightmare for them.
Well, let's talk about this. So we've got ETHLend, Salt, Nexo.
So Maker is another one that's pretty understood, where you can create coins and keep coins in a collateralized debt position to create new currency and then pay it back and stuff like that as well. Yeah.
But let's dig into this, because I met Salt at Consensus in New York City, and for all intensive purposes, I think Salt allows you to get onto the platform, but there's actually no involvement in my mind with actual lending. So I can't understand exactly how the connection between the coin itself, obviously getting on the platform and allowing you to get these certain rates and things like that, but couldn't you just go to a mortgage broker or go to a website which compares things and do this exact same thing?
Yeah, I think it's been 9 months since I read the Salt white paper. We did cover it on the channel, but to the best of my memory, it has membership tiers, which you need the token for. It starts off at pretty low, I think about $25 for the base membership. But then if you want like a business style membership, it's quite expensive. So that gives the Salt token a bit of intrinsic value. I think you can lend and borrow and put up collateral in multiple currencies. It doesn't have to be Salt, as you say. So, again, the more utility, the more value.
100%.
So
but I guess I was challenged by that, and I was confused ever so slightly about the Salt coin itself. I think something like Nexo, on the other hand, which is a SEC compliant, and I say SEC compliant, is not registered. It's SEC compliant, where they have got their Reg D. They are a dividend token, so they do pay 25% of their interest earnings to their token holders. It's one of the coins which has held up really, really well throughout this entire period. Again, potentially, is that because it's a security token and everyone's just holding out for that quarterly dividend payment, potentially like a share, you know, like any stock.
I think it's one of the best use cases, or one of the things we encourage projects to do, is if you're bordering on being a security, just do the extra work and become a security. And then if you can pay out rewards, it's a huge reason to hold your token, and becomes a little bit more like shares. People are going to hold your token if you're paying them out rewards and that sort of thing. So if you're a security, don't try and, you know, tippy toe around the edges and say, no, we're not doing this, blah, blah, blah. Just bite the bullet and say, yeah, we're going to get registered, do it properly, and we're going to pay out rewards. I mean, look at Binance token burning, you know, Binance coin each quarter, anything like that puts upwards pressure on the basics of supply and demand is really attractive for coin holders.
Yeah, Nexo has lent out money now to actual people, which is incredible. ETH Lend is not a coin that I know a lot about. Unfortunately, it's not something, I don't know if you knew much about it.
A little bit, very similar to Salt. Same sort of issues. I do want to have those guys on the channel, because I do believe that's a good team and a good project that I do want to know more about.
Okay. Thanks very much, Ben, for your question as well. Great question there. Anyone else who has some questions, do send them in. Would love to hear more about it. Guys, want to talk about a little bit now about trading trends. So we've got Binance potentially going to be opening up fiat deposits out of Malta from their Malta exchange. That obviously, Binance being massive and having such large volume, given that they don't even have fiat on-ramps and off-ramps, is very interesting to me. How do you think it'll affect their trading volume, them bringing on fiat currency, Alex?
I love it. And as I said before, I love what Binance is doing, being innovators. Binance coin went from 10 cents to $16. So every $1,000 you bought was worth 160 grand. Like, it's been one of the best performers. I think it's good. It gives on-ramps and optionality to all these people in different countries. I think it was Euro, were you saying? But I know they were working with pounds. So for Great Britain, the more of those licenses they can get, and they're okay to issue actual currencies, it's just huge. And that's why they've gone to somewhere like Malta. You know, good luck trying to set up in the US and get one of those New York licenses. And that's why we saw exchanges move out of New York, because, you know, you have these tough laws and regulations. It sounds good on paper, but all the smart money and the smart minds just say, well, we're going to move elsewhere that's more friendly. So good on Binance.
It'll crank the Binance coin potentially even higher.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a big fan of the old Binance coin. Now, let's talk about ICOs right now. ICOs are having a tough time. More ICOs aren't closing. They're not hitting their soft cap. Not even, a lot of them are struggling. I think you were saying the other day that 5 million is the new 50 million when it comes to an ICO raise. Tell us about that, Alex. What are you seeing in the market with ICO raises?
So last year it was pretty easy during the euphoria for people to raise 50 million. There was a lot of underhanded discounts. So the private sale might have got 100% token bonus, and the pre-sale gets a 50% bonus. So of those coins, a lot of the time they'd pump on the hidden exchange, but now they've obviously really been dumped because of all the bonuses and whatever. So the way that people are raising money and getting creative is changing a little bit in terms of how much tokens they're selling and how that's all playing out. But yeah, some of the best projects now that are raising $5 million would have been raising 50 or 100 during the hype, during the euphoria. So people don't want to give away their Ethereum when the price is down of their Ethereum as well. Mm-hmm. People are tired of the bear market. The sentiment euphoria around ICOs has died off a little bit. So a number of things, but pretty frustrating if you're a good project and you're having a good structured ICO, can't raise money, versus some of these ones that were, we've already seen these ones go under, scams and stuff that raise $60 million, billions of dollars that are, not really going anywhere, raise too much money.
Wanted to give a quick market update, just in terms of prices. Bitcoin has jumped back up to 6,429. Ethereum at 478. EOS at $9.90. Bitcoin Cash at $3.21. Ethereum Classic I don't know why I keep saying that. I think I'm going to skip that one. Litecoin to $94, and Ripple back to 53 cents. So Bitcoin back to 6430. Interesting move, and a good bit of movement now. So when it comes back to ICOs, are there any hot ICOs that you're looking at right now, Alex?
Right now. So full disclosure, there's 2 projects that I'm working with in Australia, and we only work with what we think are the best. So there's a very cool app called Bamboo that you'll be able to download before the end of the year. Most people are familiar with Acorns, where you put your loose change, it rounds it up and puts it into shares. This is the exact same thing for crypto. So we think people are going to love this. Very easy to use. Don't have to know anything about how exchanges work or private keys. So you can start putting all your loose change into Bitcoin or crypto. That's one that we're working with. And Block Grain is obviously the big agriculture platform. They're making deals with different grain companies around the world. Not just the grain industry, even though that's the biggest export in Australia. So we do fruit, veg, wool, any commodity, medical marijuana in the future, poppies in Tasmania, anything that you want to be able to trace where it's going to, prove its legitimacy, all that sort of thing for supply chain and logistics. We're pretty excited about that one.
I had a really interesting tweet the other day. Just to get your views on this, Alex. It was in terms of the idea that it's from Zach Hess. He's the creator of Amovio, one of the lead developers that was inside Argor that split off. He's currently running VO. He said, and I quote, big cryptocurrency scams to avoid: 1, supply chain management; 2, property ownership records; and 3, shares in a company. These are all things that cannot be enforced using a blockchain. And just to give a bit of context, people did come on and just said, why don't you think property ownership records could be enforced through the blockchain? He said, if the local government decides to steal your land to build a freeway, it doesn't matter what the blockchain says. The blockchain can't stop them from taking your land. So essentially, if the blockchain can't enforce something to happen, then it's not doesn't actually matter what the blockchain says. It actually only matters what happens in the real world at the end of the day. What's your views on that?
That's a good point. So definitely for property ownership, and depends what country you're in. Now, with smart contracts, they replace law. So if that would be breaking that law in that country, then maybe that is a perfect case for the blockchain. You've got to ask yourself, though, with logistics and traceability, we're trying to prove where something is and where it came from. If the shipment of grain doesn't turn up in China, we can say, well, hold on, it was scanned onto this, this truck from this farm, it got onto this ship at this time, and we know exactly where it is. We can prove where it is. So I kind of agree with what he's saying, but at the same time, I think we hear the problems that are in the industry, and these companies were literally trying to solve this problem before the blockchain came along. So they haven't just created an ICO to try and raise some money, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to solve a real world problem that the blockchain solved for them. So I agree with what he's saying, but I also think there's some very good uses as well.
I guess what I'm trying to understand is, even if the blockchain says this grain is sitting at this depot, but the grain's not actually at the depot because it's been stolen or whatever it may be, does it actually matter what the blockchain says unless there is some consequences that the blockchain can cause? Can it? Maybe
so
there's some
in
proof
that
of stake
instance, there, the consequence would be dispute resolution. It was on this ship or it was at this yard and it's been stolen. So the responsibility falls onto you guys, or you have to pay some fee, or at least we know where it was last known location, sort of thing. So you can start to go down the dispute resolution process, but it's better than the current system.
But couldn't the current system just use a centralized database?
Well, what Kale and that are telling us is that this happens all the time, and something that was meant to go to one country ends up going to another country, and then they say, hey, this is that grain from Tasmania, pay a premium price for it, it's organic. You say, well, hold on, it was meant to be on that ship and come from there. So traceability is huge. I think it was the rock melon or the hepatitis A with all the berries in supermarkets, rather than recall millions of dollars of produce, we can say, well, it was only actually this one batch that we've traced the whole way and we've quarantined it to this little area. So maybe it cost the company $100,000 in recall instead of tens of millions. So there's lots of ways that this will save being able to trace very accurately where things have gone.
Yeah, I guess I still think, for me, all those problems just seem like enforceability challenges, which could be from a centralized database with, a public-private key. But I hear what you're saying. It could be another way to solve it. I just don't see.
Yeah, centralized database. Can someone kind of scan it in a supermarket anywhere in the world and see all that data?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting to see how that will play out. But I just thought it was a very interesting view in terms of.
It's a great question, and you've got to ask those for every ICO project. Do you need a blockchain versus do you even need a token? And we believe that these are good use cases. Yeah.
Cool. Joel, I think we've got a question coming in from the audience as well. Thanks very much, guys. Do send in your questions. Alex is here with us. The question is from Greg. Hey, guys, are the majority of whales holding or selling Bitcoin at the moment? How do you find out? That's a great
so
question.
If you were to bring up Google, Fred, you can type in top 100 Bitcoin addresses, and it should be the top result, I think. And this shows you the top 100 richest Bitcoin addresses, and it shows you when they last put coins in or out. And the other day, this might be the second result. So 99bitcoins.com, I think, is the one. And it shows you when they last took Bitcoins in and out. No, it might be the top one, actually. And the other day, we saw that headline about a wallet address that had 94,000 Bitcoins in it. And it took a few out. And that causes that panic. People think whales are sending to an exchange. But if you're a whale, maybe you just send it back and forth to a different address and cause this panic. So it's just the top result, bitinfocharts.com/top 100 rich lists.
Okay.
And then if you scroll down a little bit, it just says first in, first out, number of transactions, the balance of the coin, and
I'll just bring it over. Alex, I apologize.
But as a general rule, over the years, these guys have had coins in there for over 5 years as a general rule, and they don't sell. They're not people that are looking to take profit. They're people that are in this space almost since Genesis, and they really believe in becoming our own banks, and they believe in this for the long term. They're not here to sell and to dump on the little guy.
So the top one we've got with Bitfinex, Binance, Bittrex, Huobi, Bitstamp, and then we've got 85,000 Bitcoin here.
Yeah.
79,000 here. There's a number of outs. Last out seems to be relatively. Oh, there's a bit of movement here. Again, that's coin check.
But it's good. It's just interesting to watch those, and they're the ones that cause a bit of panic when someone withdraws a few thousand Bitcoin and people fearful that they're going to get dumped on.
There's a bit of 10,000 Bitcoin wallets here. They're pretty massive.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Really interesting right now.
Yeah, but what's what people don't understand about the blockchain a lot of the time. People say Bitcoin's anonymous and private, but we have software and people that are very good at tracing where stuff's going, and that's why privacy coins have seen a big rise the last couple of years, because people don't want to be traced with what they're doing.
100%. So we hearing I'm hearing all the time these these. I get a lot of people coming to us saying, I've got a friend who's got, 10,000 or 50,000 Bitcoin to sell. I think everyone's got a friend with 50,000 Bitcoin to sell right now. What's your view on all these kinds of trades, Alex? Like, it seems like, apparently some people have made these trades. Apparently, most people are just, kicking tires and trying to scam people to some extent with escrow services and weird things like that. What's your view about all of that?
Yes, we speak with Caleb and Brown, that's in the background there, that about OTC trades as well. And like you said, a lot of it's got a 90% plus failure rate with people that'll talk a big game, and you've got to be able to prove you've got the money and prove you've got the Bitcoins and then match them up and do it in a safe and secure way. And that's very hard to do. Different countries, different languages, trust. So I don't know what your thoughts are, but a lot of the time it turns out to be scammers, and you've got to be so careful. But we also know that there are people that are buying huge amounts and selling huge amounts behind the scenes.
Just looking at those wallet addresses, there seem to be only, there just weren't that many wallets with that much Bitcoin in it.
A lot of it's for show. I mean, we had a huge request the other day, and it turned out to be, scammers. And you've got to do the due diligence with all the paperwork to make sure that it's just genuine. So
100%. Really interesting. So we've got what are the Bitcoin whales doing? So that is definitely one way of finding it out. I do think that it's very interesting to look at the long and the shorts when it comes to some of these coins. Looking at, say, Bitcoin and USD in terms of the shorts and the longs. Yes. I think that potentially also drives a bit of action.
100%. Yeah.
Those up.
So the Ethereum shorts got up to a record high the other day, and we tweeted out that, this isn't good. Something's going to happen. And then we saw that snapback rally where all those shorts get liquidated. And Bitcoin is starting to really rise again in the number of people that are shorting, so betting that it'll go down. And just the last day, we've seen, a bit of a pullback, and we're getting a bit of a price rise today.
Yeah, it's really...
Whether that's temporary, who knows?
So this is the Ethereum shorts you were talking about that really had a real snapback there. The Ethereum longs haven't really moved. Bitcoin shorts have been very much rising, up about 4,000.
Yes.
Looks like the longs, no one's super bullish yet. They seem to be chilling out down at the 30,000 mark. It's still longer than it is short, but so overall the sentiment seems to be that people, do think it's eventually going to rise. What's your sort of views on that, Alex?
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. As I said, when it gets to extremes or a lot of people pile in all at once, they tend to be wrong in the short term. So people that are speculating, how a lot of people, beginner traders, love to trade on margin, and when it's the wrong thing to do, they often get burnt. So when everyone's betting, if you're betting that Bitcoin is going to go down now when it's already been falling for 6 months, that's probably the wrong time. The time to be betting Bitcoin was going to go down was up when it was at those lofty highs. So that's the way I think about it.
Do you ever take longs or shorts over large periods of time, or are you more of a short-term trader?
Swing trades. So we definitely have, I've got some trades on at the moment. I think IOTA, Amisa Go, I think EOS is going to have a rally once they get the mainnet sorted. So they're those sort of trades where I have a fundamental reason that I think it's going to be higher in the next few weeks or couple of months. And if you don't trade on margin, you're not borrowing too much money and paying a lot of fees. You can sit on those trades and wait for the fundamentals to play out.
Totally. So IOTA, but that's an interesting one because that's a very long-term project, right?
I think they've had a lot of good news lately, a lot of upgrades, and it's still an unproven technology at scale. But I think in the bear market, when a coin has got like dozens of good announcements, but it's continued to drop at the same rate as all the bad coins with no announcements, once that market turns, I think those coins are gonna. People start to read all the good articles and they go, oh, wow, I didn't realize Amisa Go was this close to, doing plasma, or I didn't realize IOTA had partnered with VW and they've got their Qubit update coming out. And it starts to really push those coins higher. So that's what I'm looking for. When the bottom comes in, hopefully in the next few weeks, whenever it is, I think those good coins are going to snap back really hard.
Really interesting. Let's talk about these prediction markets. So Argor, obviously Rep, Amovio with VO, and
Gnosis is the
Gnosis.
other one, yeah.
Tell us, what's your view on each of those?
I love it. I mean, we can make each other a bet.
What's the background, Alex? What's the background?
Yeah. So the background is you create a smart contract and it's put your money where your mouth is the easiest way to think of it. So if people say there's no way Donald Trump's going to get elected. This is the example I use. They say he's a 1% chance. You say, well, I'll take that bet, 100 to 1 odds, and you put $10 in a smart contract, and the other person has to put in the $1,000, and then the winner gets paid out, and it's in a smart contract once the result is happened. If it's a very provable result, like a president getting elected, people can't argue with it. If it's a more complicated result, then we have, I think they're called oracles or community members that vote. And there's a dispute resolution process, again, for the very complicated cases. But long story short, you bet on an outcome just like any sports bet or any betting market, but it's in a smart contract and the winners automatically get paid out. If people start to think Donald Trump's getting a better chance, then those odds start to adjust. And as money flows into bets, you actually get real world odds from the wisdom of the crowd about what the likely outcome of any event is.
So really what we're talking about is a derivatives market on anything.
Derivatives market on anything, instead of sporting bet apps taking their cut. So I think, when there's like a 2-horse race in a game of soccer or whatever it is, sometimes the best odds you get, it might be like $1.90, $1.85. Cutting out the middleman, I think you can actually get those odds the same as Funfair before. We can almost get it perfectly to 2 to 1. So yeah, without the middleman taking a fee.
Interesting. And then you've got obviously a bit of controversy with Argor being sued for $150 million by one of the investors. One of the lead developers, Zach, leaving and starting his own blockchain with Imovio and going straight to mainnet, which is live and operating currently. They've had some interesting DDoS attacks on them as well. Which has been, I'm not sure where that's come from, but you could only imagine. And then Gnosis, you said, I'm not sure, do you have an update on where they're at with their project?
I haven't followed Gnosis that closely, to be honest. There's a lot of these, again, Augur's got a beta out where you can go and play around, and people are currently making bets on the platform. It hasn't been rolled out for mainnet for public yet. So these are complicated things to do. Again, it comes back to some legal reasons and people saying, well, do we need betting licenses? Can we even do this in this country? Who's responsible? So a lot of these were good ideas and they're simple and they will work on a decentralized internet, but it's the friction when in the real world in different countries and that sort of thing, which is frustrating for projects. And some things just take time to do.
100%. I think that's the message that's coming through right now. We need to hold in tight to struggle through this bear market, Alex.
Yes. And Bitcoin's actually going up since we've been talking, so that's always handy.
Let's do a bit of a market wrap up right now in terms of prices. We've got Bitcoin sitting at 6,424, Ethereum at 481, EOS at 989, Bitcoin Cash at 858, Litecoin 94, almost $95, Ripple at 53 cents. Maybe the show is good luck for buying time.
Let's hope so.
Are we at the bottom, Alex? Are we at the bottom again? Do you think we're at the bottom? Is this the bottom? Do you feel it? What's everyone saying? What's the sentiment you're getting from your channels?
If nothing changes, I think we have to. Markets typically bottom with a capitulation, where there'll be one last news event where everyone panics. We have a huge, big spike down in price. Everyone that was trying to catch that falling knife with margin trades all get liquidated. It's very messy. It's high volume. And that tends to mark the bottom. So I'm not just talking about crypto, I'm talking about all markets over the years, when gold bottomed out in 2015 and all that sort of thing. So that's what we tend to look for. Maybe we just grind higher if this is going to be a drawn out process. Who really knows? But I think longer term, we're going to be much higher and we're going to look back at laugh at these levels and these prices on the good coins.
Okay. One of the things that's been plaguing me for a while is NEO. It's at $39.53, and I remember when it was up around 100, 120, 130 even, and it's been plagued with all sorts of issues, bugs, challenges. The ICOs that have launched on it haven't been, I wouldn't say have been the most. They've had a lot of challenges. Let's just put it that way in getting their tokens right and all sorts of things getting on exchanges. Tell us about your view on Neo. Neo seems to be the one that's sort of lurking in the background. It should have had a run, but it hasn't had a run. What's going on there?
Yeah, so as you said, I think on the charts, Neo actually got up to $200 at one point. I think it's going to do well once they iron out those bugs. I think everyone's waiting for the green flag from China in some way or another, saying, Chinese government are very powerful. They can end the project or very quickly, or they can embrace it in some way and it'll absolutely run. So, look, I think it'll be all right in the long term. It's what we spoke about before in terms of China not wanting to hinder innovation in their country. I think they're going to allow projects like Neo to function. When it does, when it starts having more ICOs, that puts a lot of demand on the coin, same as Ethereum when they start doing ICOs. So, yeah, I think the future is reasonably bright for Neo. They've got as good a chance as anyone in China to get that sort of tick of approval from the government.
Okay. Tough one. Definitely been experiencing its big share of challenges and not really clear on what exactly is coming up next with it.
I think just in general, I know for a fact that there's some big coins out there, top 10 projects that have got big announcements that don't want to put it out during the bear market. So once these markets turn around, all of a sudden you'll get the good news and everyone, it falls on deaf ears at the moment, but once it turns, don't be surprised to see some good announcements from some good coins.
Okay. Any particular coins, Alex, you'd know or want to talk about that may be having announcements coming? Are you going to give us an announcement of an announcement coming up?
No, I'm not. I hate one of my pet hates, mate. Announcements about announcements.
What are the coins, Alex, you're very excited about right now? The ones that no one's really talking about. Where are you looking right now?
Ones that no one's really talking about. I think everyone loves proof of stake.
That secret bag of Alex that's tucked away very deep down in the undergrowth of crypto coins sitting under Nuggets. The Nugget sign that no one...
So our most watched video is top 10 underrated coins, if you want to check that one out. Everyone loves proof of stake and earning rewards. PivX is one of... And privacy coins love to hate the other privacy coins. So no matter which privacy coin you ever name, they're gonna say that their coin's better than another one. PivX moved to fully private and to proof of stake. So you can privately stake coins and earn a healthy reward. That's a very big community. That would be one that I think is going to be attractive to people to stake. It's a lot cheaper to own a masternode. I think it's only about $25,000 at the moment compared to $700,000 for Dash. So yeah, that's probably one that I'll like. The most underrated coin though is still Horizon State in my view.
Horizon State, wow. That's interesting. I love what those guys are doing. Market does seem to be coming up a little bit in terms of price right now, looking a little bit healthier. I wonder if we're going to get any solid news coming up. Are there any other questions, Joel, from our audience right now? Or Alex, do you have some questions that you would like to ask?
No, well, what are you most excited about, mate? What sort of message are you getting in general from all your guests?
I think a lot of people are they're very bullish, high level on the entire space. Let's put it that way, for sure. I think that there are some definite moves towards security tokens. It's taking a long time to go and work through all these things step by step. I think the trading right now, a lot of the people, why a lot of the volume is not being seen and why a lot of the volume is going down on exchanges is because it's moving a lot to OTC. I think the OTC desks are really blooming right now. I know some that are bringing on 24-hour, 7 days a week trading, which is incredible. I do think that there is a lot of good projects that are coming up, but I think there's some great projects that are just sitting in the midst that take a long time to do. And I don't think they're like the easy ones that are in front of us, a lot of those easy ones and things like that. I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about like ones that are actually, wow, that's a very unique and interesting way of using the blockchain. I think they are the ones which people are working on right now. And as I said, in the second half of this year, my forecast will be on some applications. And I'd put some punts take some pets, and this is not financial advice, on those projects. I do think this whole idea of stable coins and things like that are fine, although I still question most of them and how they work, and whether or not they're actually going to come out as being, being pegged to some dollar or whatever it may be, seems a bit unusual to me because essentially, aren't we hedging in the first place against those entire coins? So I'm a little bit confused about that. I think the other thing which I am worried about is I think a lot of ICOs and the promises they make, they keep making more and more promises, they keep delaying further and further. I actually think we're going to see quite a few of them fall over.
Oh, man, for sure. 99%. We're already seeing devs jump ship, projects saying, hey, we can't do this. So 100%, yeah.
I think, you look at the devs. I reckon if there was someone out there that had a little app to check all the LinkedIn profiles of the developers of these ICO projects, I think that might be the next, when the wallet out of Mt. Gox moves or the top 100 coins wallets move. I reckon that the LinkedIn profiles change of the developers. I think that's probably going to be another one of those. Maybe we should publish that together, Alex. But my forecast is sorry, say again.
Have an ICO for that.
Yeah. No ICOs. The ICO Dev Index when the developers move. But I do think that some of these devs are moving because realistically, some of the promises and some of the expectations they're setting, I'm not sure whether that's all fully aligned. I do think another thing I'm noticing is a lot of, I'd say, people who, I remember this phase when I was working in the internet back in the day in the early sites and building websites for people. It took ages to find out which person, because it's a new industry, who was trustworthy and who was not trustworthy. And I think a lot of that is starting to come out now because there's a lot more interactions with people, and the information and things like that are moving even faster. So I think what's happening is there's almost a bit of a consolidation taking place to some extent. People have been burnt, people have been hurt, people have lost money, but now they're like, oh, actually, I figured this out to some extent. So people are holding on to their money. People are making smarter moves. People are starting to teach other people of how to actually do this and watch out for. I think there's some consolidation to some extent taking place. And that's why potentially there is a bit of a bear market because everyone's sort of taking stock. And I think you'll get, everyone's sort of building up their cash supplies again from their regular businesses or whatever they may do. I think there might be times to go back in eventually into the market. So I think that's sort of the phase where we might be in. A consolidation to build up to a bit of a bull phase, but it's going to take a while because cash doesn't just come from nowhere. Yeah,
good points. Good points.
Cool. Well, what we might do is, Alex, we might bring us to a close. Alex, you make some incredible videos, so do watch Alex's videos. Do check them out. Come and subscribe to the Daily Exchange. And thanks so much, Alex, for coming on to the show. Thanks very much, everyone, for asking their questions. Wait a minute. We do have a question from Martin on Facebook. Where do you see long and short information? So I can quickly answer this. I'm not sure. I pulled that information from Bitfinex. Where do you pull your information from?
So if you go to tradingview.com and just type in shorts in the toolbar, it'll bring a list of those up for you.
Yeah, so I just drop it in here in TradingView. I use this site called Multicoin Charts, which has basically, it has essentially got 4 different windows. You can add more. But you just type in BTC USD shorts or ETH USD shorts. And if you replace shorts with longs, that's what I've done down here, you'll get the same thing. Joel, can you just post that in the chat for the guys there of what to type in for the different ones? And we do, just in closing, Alex, we have got a final video with the CEO of Funfair, an interview we did with him in London with Jez. So we'll just exit with that. But thanks so much, guys, for watching the Daily Exchange with Alex from Nugget. See you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
I'm Jez Zan. I'm one of the founders of Funfair, which is a gaming technology company based in London. Funfair has created technology that empowers casino operators to offer a fair game. So it's powered by the blockchain and smart contracts, and it's the first time that we've been able to build a casino gaming system, a platform that literally runs on the blockchain and doesn't require any servers. One of the problems we're solving is the trust problem, that many players don't want to trust leaving money in a casino or believe that they're going to be cheated. And even though the cases of people actually being cheated is very low, because there is a trust issue, the market is limited in its size by the number of people willing to participate in it. So we believe by creating technology that guarantees a fair game and also does it very efficiently so that casino operators have good margins, we believe that we can have an expanded market. We believe we can offer the player benefits, the operator benefits, even the regulators and the affiliates get something out of it.
And how does your technology do that?
So it does that. Firstly, we've built the games to run in smart contracts on the blockchain, and then we've also built a scaling technology that we call Fate channels, and that allows transactions to run really fast, which allows players to play games at the speed that is fun. Because right now the blockchain is quite slow and can be overloaded at times, and that wouldn't be a fun experience for players if the games they played were slowed down by the blockchain. So we have technology that takes the games off chain, lets them run really fast, and then goes back to the chain to do settlement.
So what is your transaction rate?
We can do thousands of transactions a second, and it could scale much faster than that. And it does that by opening the transaction on the blockchain and bringing deposits onto the blockchain, and then it can play as many games as it wants off-chain, and then it goes back to the blockchain to settle. So there's really no limit to the number of transactions per second, and this is all running on today's Ethereum. We're not waiting for a future version. It runs today on our website, funfair.io.